What's up, everybody, and welcome once again to another episode here on The Remedy. Listen, today we have a great show for you. As you know, it was already you've seen it on Facebook, you've seen it on YouTube. Today we're going to talk about prison. Listen, family, there are millions of Americans that are locked up either in prisons or in jails that are overcrowded, extremely violent, and and I don't know about you, but to me, it's a big deal. And a great deal of them do not have proper, they're not getting proper treatment, they're not getting the proper education, they're not being rehabilitated. So, what's up with that? So, we want to take a moment today to talk about that here on The Remedy. So, I want to welcome you as we discuss truth behind bars. Welcome once again, and I am delighted to have the member of the crew with me who are here today. So, I want to take a moment to welcome Pat. Pat, what's up, buddy?
Hi, everyone.
Looking beautiful, looking beautiful today. Thank you for being here. And the lovely Luby is right here with us as well.
Hello.
Luby, thank you so much for being here. Now, Blue, your screen is going in and out for some reason. So hopefully everything is doing well. How you doing, brother? All right, he's having a little problem getting in, so that's all right. We'll check back with him. Clifford, if you're watching the show, I want you to know you're supposed to log in and not watch the show. You're supposed to call in and be part of the show. So until everything is set, family, tell me what's going on with you today. Pat, let's start with you.
It's Saturday. I have a long weekend. It's actually my youngest one's 21st birthday on Monday. So we're
21st
celebrating today.
birthday.
Can
All
you guys
right.
hear me?
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. What about you, Luby?
Today is moving day for Myrtle's Law. So we are officially going virtual until the pandemic. So
Also, you get to work from home now?
so we get to work virtual. However,
It can happen and be quite successful.
Yeah,
I'm
I
looking
mean, I've
forward to
done
it.
it. I've done it. There's definitely some benefits to working from home, but at the same time, there's something about being on the field, working with the people on a regular basis. I miss it personally. So, I'm able to go back and forth now. 2 days a week, I'm working on the field, and then 3 days I'm working at home. So it's definitely a learning experience. But we got to do what we got to do. Don't you? Do you agree?
Yes, especially when you have little ones who are also homeschooling.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, I've been working from home 5 years. I don't miss the office at all. None.
Yeah. Well, family, for those of you who don't know, I have with me here, he goes by the name of Blue. What's up, Blue?
How y'all doing?
We're doing all right, man. Listen, I want to, first of all, it's my first time meeting you on the Remedy today. So I just want to say thank you so much for being part of the show today. We are delighted that you are here. Now, tell me a little bit about you and how did you meet Clifford? Clifford will be joining us soon, but tell me a little bit about that.
Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
I would say I met Clifford about 8 years ago. Him and another partner. They do security for local bars and local events and stuff like that. So I was for a long time. I did security with them. I'm actually an Act 235 agent, Pennsylvania Act 235 agent, and I just been friends with Cliff for about that long.
Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
on a scale from 1 to 10, how good of a friend is Clifford? He's
Oh,
listening right there.
oh man, that guy horrible a friend. No, 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 no. He's all right guy. He's a good guy. He got a good heart.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here. We're gonna get to hear a little bit more from you soon. Clifford, and can you hear us okay?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Thank you for joining us, my friend. How are you doing today?
Wake up,
Can everyone
Cliff.
hear me?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
can.
we
Can
can
you
hear you,
hear
Cliff.
us? Okay, so Clifford is gone. All right, so Blue, we're gonna start with you. I'm gonna put you on the spot here for a minute. Um, Today's show is it's about prison and what goes on behind bars. I think it's important. A lot of time when I say we, I'm talking about us in general. We tend to pass judgment based on what we see on TV, based on movies, and based on what we hear from the media, but it's different when you actually hear it from people who are actually in there on a regular basis, or not on a regular basis. For Clifford, for example, he's been working there for 11 years, so he knows the in and out of what goes on in the jail cell. And from my understanding, Clifford and Blue, he met you in prison, is that correct?
No.
So that was outside of prison.
Yeah, yeah.
I gotta have Clifford to come in and share this story better because I got my facts all wrong. All right, so Clifford is here. Clifford, are you okay now? Oh,
Uh,
boy, no. He's not. All right. Well, so Blue, let me start by asking you, what would you say was, when if you don't mind me asking, and I'm sure
Ask
Clifford
away,
knows
ask away.
as well. Um, the reason why you went to prison is not important to us right now. What's important is what happened from the time you went in and from the time you came out, and how's your life is right now. To me, that's the important part, because one of the things we're going to talk about today is rehabilitation. So what would you say the treatment was for you, your first experience in prison? What was that like? Because we have a lot of young people watching the show, and for a lot of them, prison is it's a joke, or it's something they see on TV or whatever. But you had first time experience with it. If you were talking to a bunch of young men and young ladies, what would you say to them about the life in prison?
I would tell them a life of crime is not worth it. It's not worth it at all. Um, my first time being incarcerated, I just turned 18, so I was still a young man when I first went to prison. I thought it was eventually like the movies, uh, what you watch, what you see in the movies, people getting stabbed, bunch of gangs. It's far from that. But what my perception of prison is modern day slavery. Period. There's no like that's how I looked at it. It was modern day slavery. Just being locked in a cell, being just being around a bunch of random people, and most of the time there's not enough bars to protect you from any harm or stuff like that. Uh, I'm not experienced with prison that much as other people are. I had the privilege of being 18 when I first got locked up. I spent about 3 weeks in there. It felt like 3 years, but it was very horrible. There's one sink to get water. Everybody eating Roman noodles. It's just I don't. It's not for people. Like I don't think people should be locked up like that. Like you can't get the necessary. Like when you need help. Like say if somebody was having a medical issue inside their cell and they screaming for the CO's help. Some COs don't even just ignore it or wait until something really serious happen, and then it's the whole incident. It's just a lot going on in there, especially during this pandemic. I
Yeah,
mean, literally, I was recently locked up during the pandemic. I got locked up in February,
okay.
so pandemic hit in March. After that, we've been locked down all day. It's supposed to have been 45 minutes out the cell, but certain COs that come in with that nonchalant attitude or don't care about, if we take a shower, don't care about if we go use the phone, don't care about like if we get in our commissary and none of that. And all these things I just mentioned is big. It's a lifeline for prisoners.
Yeah.
So when you don't be able to call your family, that can drive that man that's in here for something totally small and put them in a big major situation because they not able to call their loved ones, not able to wash up, and we sitting in the cell with another stranger for literally 24 hours a day, and we'd be lucky if we get out. But yeah, it was just crazy. Like I was at PIC. What is it? I can't remember the proper name for PIC, but very
Philadelphia Industrial Correctional Center.
there you go. There you go. Listen, I don't care for none of that stuff. So, and I did 6 months, and it was the worst time of my life. I lost a lot. Like just Cliff know me. Cliff know me for a long time. I'm a hard-working man, and I care about my kids, and I stay out the way. Unfortunately, I had a situation that put me there, and I'm still actually going through the system right now, trying to clear my name, but that's here nor there, and trying not to go back there. But it was a very horrible experience.
Yeah.
Very horrible.
Yeah.
Like literally, I went from CF to PIC, and wanted to go back to CF because PIC is as soon as you walk in, you got bugs in the ceiling and rodents running everywhere. Is not clean. They understaffed, and for my crime that I felt like I did, I shouldn't have been in there with people that were suspected to be killers and suspected to be rapists. I seen a lot of stabbings in my short period of time there. A lot.
Yeah. So life in prison is his heart. Period. From what I'm listening to you, it's not a walk in the park. Um, you know, Clifford, thank you so much for joining us. I want to take a moment to first of all to introduce you to those who are watching. Those of you who don't know who Clifford is, Clifford spent 11 years in the prison system as a correctional sergeant. Um, he is a black business owner. He's a mentor. He's a life coach. He's a business owner. But he's also a father and a husband. For those of you who know him, Clifford is a big guy, but he is also very gentle. I call it's like a big bear. Ma- Many people call him Superman. He goes by the name of Superman. Clifford, for those of you who are watching him, how much can you bench right now?
Right now, I'm probably a little over 500.
Yeah, how about that? So Clifford is a big guy. Okay, so I am really happy that you are here with us on the remedy. You'll get to tell me a little bit about Blue. I didn't want to introduce him because you know him better than I do. There's some qualities about this guy that you can tell us a little bit about. But I want to welcome you to the remedy. We have Patty Bermudez with us, and as well as Ruby. We will be asking you some questions throughout the show. Um, so I guess the first question we want to ask you, and Patty, you can take it away from here. I believe she has a question that many of us are not sure how the answer to that because we kind of use them and we're not sure what's the difference between the two.
Yes. Hello, Cliff. Hi, Blue. Welcome on the show. For me, I've had the longest problem in terms of what's the difference between jail and prison. And also, personally, being Haitian, prison is a French word, and prison means in French, it also means jail. So I've always had a problem understanding the difference between the two. So maybe you can perhaps help me understand within the US. And I also heard that Lou mentioned he would have preferred to in CS versus PIC. I'm assuming there might be a difference between the two, and perhaps you can enlighten us with for that as well.
I guess prison and jail is pretty much the same thing. Prison is there, if you get the technical form of it, prison is an institution, and jail is just a place under jurisdiction by local government. So technically, if you get arrested in the city of Philadelphia, you're taken to jail. If you get technical, because that's the jail is under the jurisdiction of the local government. Whereas though prison, you're looking at state penitentiaries, Gratisford, Fayetteville. It's just technical terminology that just basically means pretty much the same thing.
Now, Clifford, I know the last time you and I spoke, we talked briefly on something that many people hear about is the school to the prison pipeline, and this was established, and we said this is something that still continue to exist today in our society. Tell us a little bit about school to prison pipeline, how this thing started, and why we need to pay attention to it.
It's basically a lot of, I wanted to get real fast. If you Google online right now in the United States, the school prison to pipeline is also known as school to prison. Basically, it's like schoolhouse to jailhouse. That's it. Basically, it disenfranchises that you're looking at. You have minors, young adults that go to school now. When you break it down, I don't know how familiar everybody is with the disciplinary process in the schools, where it's kind of
I'm really not.
it's very similar. Like I was listening to Blue say earlier, it's modern day slavery, where in reality they're structuring these schools pretty much like they structure the prisons. If you look at now, back in our days when we went to school, if you got in trouble, you were sent over to the principal's office. The principal would call your mother. Whatever happened, you got in trouble. Mom had to come to the school. You get that butt whoop. Then you go home and your day went on. Now you have more of a, most schools now have what you call, they have deans. And one thing I've learned and I've watched, most of the deans in a lot of these schools are African American. Now you're looking at, they're putting us African Americans in disciplinary roles. You're looking at most of these schools in the urban areas, they're Black and Hispanic kids in most of these schools. And they're being disciplined by Black African American males. Particularly, most disciplinarians in most schools are Black males. So you're looking at, back in the day during slavery time, you had your slaves. Then you had what they would call, and I'm gonna be explicit, you had what they would call your house nigga. And that's just the terminology that they had back then, who would oversee those slaves. Now you would be given little benefits and little perks here and there to do certain things, but at the end of the day, that's what it was. And you're looking at, even if you go back to the prison times, you're looking at back then to the slavery times until now, it's kind of hypocritical of myself to say the police department is a good thing, because how can something that wasn't created for us benefit us? Let's be real. The
Mhm.
police department was created in slavery time. Your first police department was there to catch slaves. Your first set of canine patrol were the canines that sniffed out the slaves that ran away. So how can you actually say that's benefiting us if it wasn't really there for us?
I agree.
Cliff, I have a
Well,
question. Hey, hey, this is Louie. First of all, thank you for being on the show. So I wanted to go back to the dean
right.
um, that you mentioned. Could it be possible that the reason they have an African American in that position is because one is based on the population of the school, and maybe it could be seen as maybe a mentorship kind of thing, or you would better listen to somebody who is in your culture, who understands who understands you. Could that be a reason why they have, I don't know, a black male? Did you say black male or black
Correct. Black
person in
male.
that position? A black
Now,
male.
And
Because
and Cliff, I have to say that I support Louis' mentality way of thinking, because I was thinking, and I've read places where they feel like black when you have a black mentor, um, you can relate a little bit more. My kids went to a school that was predominantly white, so they Caucasian, so their dean was Caucasian. So could it be that, or do you think it's a mix? Or
no,
I was
it.
thinking the same way, that it's maybe because we can relate a little bit more if that person looks more like us.
I totally
Because
agree.
let me
Now,
give you an
it.
example real quick, Cliff. I'm sorry. To give you a quick example as to why I asked that question. My brother is a teacher. He's in the school. He's a teacher, and the school really looks to him a lot when it comes to the students who are difficult to deal with, because he has a way of speaking with them and speaking to them to get them in order. Like I find that because he can relate to them, it's easy for them to be like, all right, Mr. Anyas, all right, we're not going, okay, all right, sure. As opposed to someone else. So that's why I'm really asking, because they do look to him, and he has a passion for the underprivileged kids. He has a passion for them.
Now, I totally agree with you. Now, if that is the case, yes, by all means, I look at it. If you're gonna put a person in that position, if they're gonna, my whole thing as a dean, I look at a lot of our kids right now are so they're being conditioned to receive repercussions for reaction. There's no listen, you messed up. Like one thing I do with my kids, if they mess up, I'm gonna sit them down and tell them, listen, you messed up. This is what you did. These are the consequences for your action. What I've learned and what I've been seeing in the schools, and I do a lot of the mentorship too, these disciplinarians and deans that they put in these positions, they're set on a set of rules where you do this, you get this consequence, you do that, you get that. It's no in between with them where they're not actually sitting these kids down. And I experienced it with my own son who had a situation where he was suspended for action that he claims he didn't do it. It was another student. He happened to be there, but it wasn't him. When I went and spoke with the dean says, well, I'm not sure what happened, but this is what we were told. So he got this suspension. It doesn't work that way for me. You can't suspend him if you haven't done your investigation to find out what's going on. So I'm looking at a lot of these people that are put in these positions aren't doing the proper steps or taking the proper steps to really educate and talk to these kids to get them. You're looking at, I have guys that come in that can get locked up. One thing I do is I talk to people. I like to talk, but on the same time, when it's time for me to conduct business, I'm going to conduct business. So I talk. You tell me what's going on. I get a feel for you. If you tell me something, one thing I pride myself on, and Blue will tell you, if I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. Whatever the outcome is, some people might not like it, but if I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. But these deans, I think, need more training. And I don't think just the whole fact that the dean, if you ask any child now, if you go to the dean's office, what happens? They'll tell you automatically you're in trouble. Where it shouldn't be that way. If that person is in a position to assist us as being young black women, men and women, we should be able to go to the dean's office if we're having an issue to talk to them. It shouldn't be if we go there, we know we're in trouble. And that's what everybody's tailored to now. If you go to the dean's office, you're in trouble. It's not for help. It's not for assistance. It's because you're in trouble. And it's just like the same way. A lot of people who go to jail, they're tailored to you go to jail is because you're in trouble. And a lot of times, a lot of people that go to jail, it's not because they're in trouble. They have other issues. There's mental issues. There's substance abuse. It's a lot of reasons why people go to jail that automatically you start thinking, well, they did something wrong. Not necessarily. In my personal, now don't get me wrong, my views are my views. It doesn't represent the city or the department that I work for. But under my personal views, you have more than, I would say, over 50% of the people that are locked up right now are locked up off of technicalities. And that's the bottom line, because the system is not tailored to help us.
Agreed. It's a systemic. We definitely has a systemic issue, and I'm hearing what you're saying, and it makes a lot of sense. We don't go from the school of mentorship. Now listening to Blue, and this question is both. I want to hear the answer from Blue as well as from Clifford. Now we know that jail or prison system is intended to be punitive, but do you believe that it is also rehabilitative? And I would like to hear Blue's response as well as Clifford's response, because Clifford, you were CO, and Blue, unfortunately, you were a former inmate. I want to see how each of you think about that question.
In some situations, yeah, it can be real debilitating to people that know nothing but crime and that know nothing, just want to come out and try to do their own thing, break the law. Like my experience, my cellmate, he was about 45 years old, and he couldn't read. He couldn't read. He couldn't write. I mean, but they got programs in there that help them with school and stuff like that. But like again, once this pandemic hit, everything shut down. There was no inmate movement at all. Um, and most of the time, it be the people of my color that's the COs that's the most nastiest. That won't that won't that won't lift a finger or try to listen. Some of them come in and want to taunt inmates. Like inmates morale is already low. So when you come in and take away just the small things, just the smallest simplest thing in there, the things that we take for granted, like just walking to your own bathroom and shutting the door, and or just going out to get something to eat from the corner store. Them small things come into play when you behind that door, and nothing else you can do. You got to ask another grown person to do this, to do that. I'm not saying like Joe. How can I say this? Well, for me, it's a horrible experience. But there's no real help in jail. I don't think it's just helping. They just send people in there, sit them in the cells, and like my first 3 weeks or so like that. I didn't even see a social worker. I mean, the social worker is supposed to be is like a major part. Like my social worker at Pick, she must have took a 2 month, 3 month vacation, and there's a lot of questions that inmates can't get answered unless they talk to a social worker. You can ask a CEO something, and the CEO will be like, well, talk to the social worker. Then there's no slips you can fill out. Like there's a lot of different things that build up a lot of tension. And then I was speaking to a couple of, I guess they would call them career criminals that been in and out. They like, yeah, the Philadelphia jails is worse than the county jails. The county jails getting real food and real help. Like they getting real rehabilitation. Like they getting help. But when you come to Philadelphia jail, State Road, there's no real help. Like you right. It's guys that go home and come right back. There's no help. And then once you hit the streets, it's just like you fend for yourself. And then they try to tie you into the system as far as probation. And then once you violate, now you right back in the system. I don't think it helps. It don't help at all.
I
Thank
agree.
you, Blue.
I agree with.
So, go
I said
ahead.
I agree with a lot of stuff that Blue says. Now you're looking at, does the prison system help you? In my opinion, it can be rehabilitated because you have those rare few that'll come in, and that jail system will scare you behind so bad that you don't ever want to come back. Then you have some people that come in for the petty crimes or for the little stuff, and you go in there and the jail will harden you up and turn you to a real criminal. You got guys in there that will test you if they think you soft. They'll do certain stuff to you. Now you got to protect yourself by any means while you're in there. But on the same note, like when Blue was saying, they're not having a lot of help. Not that it makes it okay, but you also have to understand how the system works. You have the inmates, you have the officers, you have administration. Now, yes, because the pandemic, a lot of stuff got closed down, but you also have to understand a lot of these prisons are working short staffed on a regular basis. So now, if you have your officers are coming in, they're being forced to work anywhere from 10 to 16 hours a day on a regular basis. They're burned out. They're doing too much. We don't have the proper reliefs. Now, when he says you got officers that have attitude, yeah, it is. Sometimes I come to work and I have attitude because you know you're being overworked. So now your lack of performance is now being put on these inmates. Because now, if I come to work and I know I just worked 16 hours, I got a 4-hour break to go home, come back, work again. Now, this guy's telling me he got to go to a program. I don't want to get up because I done did 16 hours. Now, I'm going to sit on my behind that. This guy's being penalized because I don't want to get up and do my job. And that's the revolving effect that goes on in the jail. A lot of the inmates that are in there are not getting the proper help that they need because they don't have the proper staffing to give them those privileges and those abilities to get to what they need. And that might be one of the biggest issues I would say in the prison is the staffing. And it's also the quality of people that you have. Now you're looking at, let's be real. If you get arrested right now, and Blue was saying you got career criminals that come in and out. If you get arrested right now in Philadelphia, first thing that happens to you, you're going to get locked up. They're going to fingerprint you. They're going to take your picture. Then they're going to send you to State Road. If you get bail, you get bail. Or if you get let go, they give you a court date. Now, you've been given a tattoo that you didn't even want because that fingerprint and that picture they took of you is going to follow you for the rest of your life. That's your arrest record now. So now you go to court, and you drag it out for a year, and the judge tells you, case dismissed. It was BS. But you still have that tattoo that's going to follow you. You have that arrest record. Now, let's flip it back.
Clifford, before you move on, this is so important. Again, I want you to repeat this because again, we have a lot of young people who watch this show, and we as again, I used to be young too, and I know the temptation is there. When we are young, we think we're invincible. We do stupid things while driving. Sometimes I've seen young people driving after leaving the bar, and they were drinking, but they still get in their cars and drive. And sometimes they have substance in their cars and they can get picked up
Right.
for that as well. Can you please go back and kind of reinforce to them once they get locked up and get their fingerprints,
It
they
is.
are in
It,
the system?
it's the reality of it. It's like you get locked up again, you get fingerprinted, they take your mugshot. Those two things, once they're entered into the system, they're in the system forever. I don't care who tells you it can be expunged. There's no such thing as expunged. Expunged simply means it's close to a certain level of authority. Now, I'm gonna give you a prime example of myself. I've worked in the prisons over 11 years. I did the Pope detail. When the Pope came through to the prisons, I led the detail for the Pope. As I talked with Secret Service, they were asking me, well, have you thought about working Secret Service? And I told them, never really thought about it. She said, you'd be a good fit. We had to talk. The lady took my information. Mind you, in May 7th, I believe it was 2003, I was arrested on a technicality where a lot of people say I didn't do anything, but I'm being real. I didn't do nothing. But I did get arrested. I was fingerprinted, went to court. Everything was thrown out. I became a correctional officer, never held me back. Record was expunged. When the lady told me from Secret Service, she took my information. The lady left. Within 15 minutes, she came back to me and said, officially and unofficially, you can't work for Secret Service. I said, why? I've been in the prisons. I'm giving them my whole background. I do this. She's like, you have an arrest record from 2003. Officially, we can't say that's why you're going to not get you can't get the job, but unofficially, that's why you can't get the job. This is something that happened in 2003. The records is sealed, but they're still able to pull that up. Why? Because that level of government and authority still has access to it. So when people tell you, now this is the messed up part about it, I was arrested. Everything was thrown out. But guess what? I had to pay $790 something to have my record expunged. over something that I was found not guilty of. Now,
and it was still truly not a sponge,
exactly,
because
because you
like you
can
said,
still
there's
pull
a
it.
different level that can still skip.
But if you go now, let's move it over to the West Coast. I don't know if you guys remember the Casey Anthony case with the young lady with her daughter was missing.
Yes, hello, here in
Right.
Florida.
Now,
Yes,
but
Yes,
there's a
yes,
movie about it.
but let's look at this though. When
yes.
Casey Anthony was arrested, this is how the system is supposed to work. Casey Anthony was arrested. She went to trial. On her trial date, she was found not guilty on a lot of major stuff. But what she was found guilty of, you know what they did after they found her guilty? They took her to the back of the courthouse. They fingerprinted her and they took her picture after she was found guilty. Why is it that at that over there, it's done the right way, but over here in a lot of other states, it's done backwards? That's the real. So if I get arrested and I get found not guilty, why is it now I have to go fix your trail to go clean up the mess if I know I didn't do anything?
Correct.
That right there is that is the beginning of that reoccurring in and out of prison you're looking at, because now you done gave me a tattoo. If I got arrested, I got this little trail. Most jobs will do a background. Most people don't have the money to get their record expunged, and some people will be biased pertaining to what you were arrested for. And then you're looking at, as this grows on and you get older, you get into the jail. The main thing, and you're looking at in the jail, you get a public defender. Most public defenders barely know what the hell they're doing, because they're basically fresh out of law school. They're trying to get through the bar, and they're basically working pro bono. First thing a PD will tell you, and Blu can attest to it, and I've seen it all the time. First thing a public defender is going to tell you, you can tell him all you want to you till you're red in the eyes. I didn't do that. He's going to tell you, take the deal.
Take the deal.
Take
the deal.
Whether he has
want
all
you to
the
do.
proof in the world, he's going to tell you, take the deal. 9 times out of 10, these young kids, 18, 19, are so scared in that jail, they're going to take the deal because they can get the hell out of jail. Or you can sit and go through the process. Your average case right now in the system runs you anywhere from, if it's not a murder case, anywhere from 3 to 6 months of your life gone while you wait.
While you wait?
While you wait.
Wow.
Now you're looking at, it becomes a business. You have lawyers. Let's say you have the money and you get a paid lawyer. A paid lawyer, let's say somebody like Shaka or something, or Perry, one of these big name lawyers. Lawyer tells you, well, listen, did you do it? You tell, look, I didn't do it. I'm telling you I didn't. Lawyer tells you, well, listen, I need $2,500 for preliminary hearings. You tell the lawyer, listen, my mom's going to give you $1,500 today. On the day of the court hearing, I'm going to give you the other $1,000, $2,500, we're good. The lawyer knows you didn't do it. He has all the facts that you didn't do it. You appear in court now. The minute you appear in court, you tell your lawyer, hey, lawyer, the guy who said I shot him or he said whatever, I know he's not coming to court. They're going to throw it out today. And the lawyer tells you, well, you got that $1,000 for me? He said, you tell him it's getting thrown out. My mom's going to give it to you tomorrow. So you thinking you good. You know what happens? That lawyer goes in front of the judge and the lawyer says, Judge so-and-so, listen, can I get a continuance? 30 days. So now the judge gives him a 30-day continuance. You're going to go sit for 30 days. You know why? Because it's a business. You didn't have that $1,000. So in 30 days, when you go back to court, you have that $1,000. It's a business. Prosecution.
Cliff, I'm
Go ahead.
I'm going to have to interrupt you for a little bit now.
Go ahead.
A couple things, I'm just, hi, Lou Bean Bertha. I'm an attorney here in Florida. I don't practice criminal now, but I did practice criminal. So I feel you, Cliff. I'm with you. And
I see it all the time.
Hold on, let's back it up a bit, okay?
Go ahead.
So a couple things you said, I just would like to clarify. When I was practicing criminal law, I did it under an attorney who was she started as a PD in the public defender's office. And let me tell you something. She never went in and told her clients, you need to take the deal.
She might be a rare few.
And she fought. She went in and she fought for her clients. And that's who I mentored under. And you said that it's rare. but it's not as rare as you think. Okay, because there are a lot of public defenders who are fighting for their clients. Unfortunately, resources is also a thing. Now, I can't speak too much on the public defender side because I've never practiced there, but I've seen,
Right.
and it's really a fight for their client. Now, as far as private attorneys go, I'm going to tell you, this is not what this show is about, but you brought it up, and I got to defend my fellow members. Okay, when you go into a store and you say, hey, how much is this gum, and they tell you it's $1. It's all right, well, bet 50 cents. You put this gum on layaway. When I come back, I'll give you the other 50 cents, and then I'll give you the gum. You expecting an exchange. 50 cents, they hold the gum, you come back, you give them the 50, you get the gum. Because it's a product that's being exchanged. The problem is, because there's no actual product that the people see, they can't understand the similarities between them. So if you have a contract with an attorney for
Right.
services for X amount, and this attorney does his job, they never promised you the outcome of your case. They promised you that they would defend you. Now, if your case ends before the contract ends, you guys can come to an agreement, but you have to understand this attorney still needs to get paid. Now, I don't agree with the attorney going to the judge and saying, hey, let's ask for continuance. I really don't know what the purpose of the continuance, and I'm not gonna lie.
Right.
There may be some attorneys who do that. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. That we're not saying yes or no. We're just saying there may be some attorneys who do that. But at the end of the day, we have a contract. So if there's an attorney who says, okay, well, when you finish paying me, then we'll finish this case. That's because once you get what you needed out of this attorney, now they're gonna have to chase you for the money. Now it's a whole other different ballgame. Like now we just don't know how am I going to be able to get the money for the services that I provided. That's just all that. I just have to clear that up. But I do
Right.
agree with you that there's some attorneys who are really turning it into a business instead of just looking at the person, their client. Their client is not a client to them, but just a way for them to increase their profit. I agree that there's some people like that, but I know for certain that here in Florida, in Tampa, there are a lot of attorneys, black attorneys, who walk the end of the earth for their clients, private attorney as well as PDs, who understand that this system was not created for Black people, and they're
Right.
trying their best to get those clients out of the system. Unfortunately, you're going against the systemic racism, so it's harder. I agree. So there's something you said that it's over there, it was done the right way. When you said over there, as far as the county, or because she was a white woman?
I don't think it's because she was a white woman, because that's just how it's done there in Florida itself. But my thing is, if you're gonna have the system itself, if you're gonna do it, I believe it should be done the same way across the board. Whereas though everybody basically has their own policies and procedures on how they process. You're looking at right now in Philadelphia. Philadelphia has decriminalized the use of marijuana for the last year, 2 years, or whatever. But yet, it's people that get arrested every day because they were smoking marijuana. Why? It makes no sense. It's been decriminalized, but you still arresting me for it. Why? Because a lot of these police and these they have the authority to do it, and they're doing it. And until we can get, I guess, on the same page across the board, which I don't think that'll ever happen. If the system is going to always be flawed, it's always going to be messed. You're looking at, it's supposed to be a speedy trial. It's supposed to be processed speed. There's nothing speedy about this system at all.
Well, you do have the right to a speedy trial, because that's constitutional.
Well,
However, understand you have the right to waive that speedy trial, because you want to make sure if you're going to go to trial and prove your innocence with a little bit of evidence that those people have, you go to trial with it, you're pretty much done.
Right.
So that's the point of it. But I do agree with you. This system was not created for us. This system was not made to help Black
Right.
people, period. You find the differences in when I was practicing criminal, and remember, it was a very short period of time. I saw the way one person would be, with the charges they received versus a Black or Latino person. You see it in the news all the time, like the Brock guy. He was charged for rape. He was found guilty for rape, and yet he only got 6 months. You put a Black man in front of the judge with those same
Right.
charges, and you go to jail forever, or prison, really,
Right.
forever. You look at
Right.
that lady, Laura Loughlin, whatever her name, the famous lady. She did the exact same crime that another Black mother did a couple years ago. The Black mother is serving time in prison. She's over here cherry picking which jail that she want to
Which
go
judge she
sit
gets to go
in
to?
for
Yep.
2 months. So it's not fair. That's clear, and it was never made to help us. I feel it was made to really, like Blu said, like a modern day slavery.
And I wouldn't even say it. It really is slavery. Like, you're looking at the first thing you do when you get arrested is what? You get shackled. They chain you back up. It's slavery. You're working in the jail, and I think right now in the jail, you work. If you work for 1 week, you earn, I believe, without exaggerating, in the Philadelphia system now, it's roughly $13, $13 to $15 a week. So you got guys working in the jail right now, 5, 6, 7 days a week to make $15 a week. If that ain't slavery, I don't know what is.
And you know what? I've always thought that jail or prison was a modern day slavery. I just feel like, okay, we went from being slaves to being slaves in another format with some more wording around it. Now, to me, it's a trickle down effect. We have a broken systemic system, which then have a corrupted business, and so forth and so on. So it's trickling down. You have somebody like yourself who's a CEO that's been a CEO for a long time. We have attorneys. Where do we correct that issue? Where do we start? You do know there are some people that you can rehabilitate to jail, but what's the percentage of those people versus somebody like perhaps Blu, where it was not rehabilitative? He's definitely telling you, I don't ever want to go back there. What do we do as a society? What can we do as a society?
Reality is, at the end of the day, it comes down to who you put in power. A lot of people believe that their vote doesn't count. I was one of those guys at one point who believed that my vote doesn't count. They're gonna do what they're gonna do regardless. But you have to be real. It comes down, it starts from the top. You're looking at Trump right now, and I was reading something on YouTube where he's appointed over 190 or 180 something judges. For one, they said that's the most of every president combined. I think they said except for Nixon. But he's appointed 198 something judges. That's from circuit level all the way up to the federal level. Basically, he's setting it up for himself. Now, a lot of people like think of the conspiracy theory. One thing a lot of people fail to realize, as much as I don't like the man is smart. He's doing what he needs to do to set himself up. He don't care about us. He's setting himself up. Trump right now, the one credit I will give him, he says everything that we think but won't say out loud. And that's the reality of it. Whether we like it or not, he doesn't bite his tongue. He says it. He's a racist. Yeah, he's going to tell you he's a racist. He doesn't like women. He's going to tell you he doesn't like women. But he's not going to. The crazy part is he says it, and then he has people that'll back him up. The Republicans right now, they don't agree with Trump. They don't love Trump, but they done got in so deep with him, for them to back up off of him now, they can't do it. So they got to ride with him, and he's in control. People don't understand this election that's about to happen right now might be the most important election in our lifetime. Our life depends on it. Whether people want to believe, our life depends on it.
Monday, you're on mute.
It says that more than 60,000 people in the US now, we're talking about, are held in for 23 hours a day. They are not allowed to shower. They maybe they might get a brief moment to exercise. Um, they don't get medical visits. They are denied calls. They are denied visits from their family members. And study has shown that people in that type of environment, they suffer from anxiety, paranoia, deep depression. So there's a lot of things involved. There's a lot of mental illness involved with that population. Based on your experience, do you know if there are anything that's in place to help when these people when they leave the jail cell? Are there things in place to kind of help them with their mental illness issues?
They do have a lot of stuff. Now, don't get me wrong, they do have a lot of programs that they do help a lot of inmates. Once you are released, they do have a lot of reintegration into society programs. You have Mothers in Charge has a lot of programs. They have quite a bit. Now, the thing is, do a lot of the guys who get discharged take advantage of it? You're looking at while you're in jail, you're kind of forced to do a lot of stuff. Right, like these programs, let's say GED for one. You take the GED course, you earn your GED while you're incarcerated. Two benefits: you get your GED, and you get to get out your cell. That's the main thing. A lot of guys do a lot of things in jail to get out of their cell. They don't want to be locked in there all day. So now I'm releasing you back into the world. Are you really going to still take advantage of this stuff? Majority of the people, no, they don't. They don't take advantage of it. But you also have to understand also, a lot of the stuff they do now is not catered to us. One thing that I've watched, a lot of us, and I'm us meaning African Americans, Latinos, the minute you get into the jail system, they try to do one main thing to you is medicate you. More than 70% of these young black kids that come into the jail are being medicated for what? I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a psychologist, but I still have to ask, what are they being medicated for? Most of these kids need somebody to talk to, or some good tough love, and that's the fact behind it. But you're looking from the crack epidemic, the crack era, where the late 80s, crack was criminalized. You took crack, you went to jail, and he locked you up. You was a thug. You took crack, you sold crack. Now you have heroin, the opioid epidemic.
Yeah.
Now it's these white people that are taking heroin and the opioids. Is no longer a criminalization. It's a crisis right now.
Yeah.
It's a mental thing going on. We have to get them help. Why? Why is it that when we were on crack, not me particularly, but in general, when our people were on the crack, why couldn't they get the same help then that these guys again with the opioid and the heroin? You're looking at every person who comes into the jail. If you was addicted to heroin or any type of opioid, or if you took they have methadone, where they give you methadone, which is a way to wean you off of that drug in the jail. If you get discharged and you was on methadone or a methadone do you know you get sent home with a Narcan packet. Narcan packet basically saves your life when you overdose on these drugs. Each Narcan pack costs the city close to $900. They give it to every inmate that gets discharged who has an addiction from that drug free of charge. But yet I'm paying $250 for an EpiPen for my son. Why?
Yeah.
Makes no sense.
Yeah.
But we're black. They have the complexion for the connection. Now, that's one of the main reasons I kind of strayed away. Now, technically, I'm still employed by them, but I haven't been there. I meet certain stuff I just can't see myself doing because I just don't agree with it anymore.
It's a powerful statement. It's a powerful statement, and Luby, I'm gonna let you talk. Because at one point, as a society, I love that you said I just can't say. At one point, as a society, and I know I'm going through this myself right now. Can you walk can you walk the talk? Like, if we're starting to be educated enough, every day I ask myself, what am I doing to be a day closer to helping my population? Because it has to be us. We know the problems. Every single show, every single one of us know the problem, the systemic issue that runs within our population. How do we move forward to the solution? Do we want our grandkids to have to deal with the same problem? I ask myself that every day. I know I don't.
Clifford kind of mentioned that our votes matter. I mean, we want to make a change. We have to vote. And again,
Right.
I say vote. I'm not talking about just the November election. I think that's the problem. Sometimes we think the only vote that matters is when we go vote in November, but we forget about the primary elections and all those public officials that we put in power. They are the one that we really need to understand who these people are, where they stand on certain issues that are important to us, and then making sure that when we do vote, we are putting the right people in power. Ruby?
No, I agree with you. That's Pat and Pastor D. You put together both of my thoughts. One was I was going to ask Cliff if, now that he sees the issue and, he himself, he's technically with them, but he just can't because he's aware. What are some of the things that he's doing now to reconcile the things that he's seen, the knowledge that he has, and how is he helping those who are coming out of prison or those who look like they're going down the school to prison pipeline, but also some of the things that he mentioned. The biggest thing is, like you mentioned, Pastor D, is voting. We always think that the biggest thing is every 4 years we just got to vote for the presidential seat. But the more that we educate ourselves, we start to realize, he has just one seat, but it's really the officials, the legislative, the Senate. They're the ones that we really need to get in those seats that could truly understand their constituents, so that they can take it to the House or take it to the Senate and try to shape laws that will affect the minorities in a positive way.
I actually personally, I do with now. I own my own company. I'm affiliated with a few other companies. One thing I always tend to do, a lot of these guys, Philadelphia is only but so small. I run into guys that come out of jail all the time, and sometimes they'll talk, we'll rap, and they'll let me know, listen, I've been trying to find a job. I can't find a job. One thing, if I can't put them in a position to make money or to get a job with my company or another company, I make calls. You're looking at right now, Home Depot for one. Home Depot is part of the reentry program. They hire ex felons. They hire, if you've been incarcerated, they give you that second chance. Me personally, I'll hire guys with my security company that'll come home and that really want to get their life on the right track. But I also tell them, me being in the field for so long, working security sometimes might not be a good avenue for a lot of these guys, because it puts you in certain situations where you may have to defend yourself or defend a property that we're securing, which may be an issue for you in the long run. So in those instances, I'll find them other stuff, put them in place with other people who can help them. You're looking at me and Blue been friends now for quite some time. Prior to him being arrested, after him being arrested, after him coming home, we have a good rapport. One thing I know he has his own trade that he does, but he also does security. He's had his 235. He's worked for me. We've done a lot of stuff together. And I think that's the biggest issue, is taking a chance on somebody. Somebody took a chance on me when I started my security company and gave me a contract. That one contract turned to 2 contracts, turned to 30 contracts, to the point where I'm in a position where I can honestly say the prisons is not a crutch for me anymore. I don't need them. I have them, but I don't need them. And that's what puts me in my situation where, as a young Black man, I can continue to do and provide for my family without needing them. A lot of people who work in the prisons, They need the prison because that is all they have. So they have to deal with the nonsense that's going on. They have to deal with the literally the abuse that these inmates are getting from officers. And that's the reality of it. For me to say that it doesn't happen or I have not seen it, it's a lie. I've seen it. The thing is, how do you address it? Now it becomes a problem where you have to deal with administration. The thing now, if you go against administration, it's like going against the grain. Administration has the upper hand. I go against the administration now. Tomorrow I get written up because I did something or I didn't do something. Now you're in the hot seat. So it's not. I'm not gonna say it's a lose-lose. If you're gonna stand your ground on what you believe is right, you got to do what you're gonna do, and we'll deal with the consequences later. And that's how I felt. Once I started to go against the grain, a lot of people who were in your corner started to back up. Oh man, Sarge tripping. Sarge's not tripping. I'm being real. I'm standing up for what I believe is right. You can't tell me I come into an area. This is not, like you said, jail is not supposed to be punitive. Now, it's punitive when you do get your sentence and you go upstate. But until you get trialed and you get found guilty, it should be a process. You're there temporarily till everything gets handled. And that's not the case right now. So my hope, like I said, just to wrap up, I give guys a chance. A lot of people might get mad at me. Well, they used to be in the jail. I could have been in the jail. I could have made that. It's the littlest decision that you make in your life that can dictate your whole life. I done made some bad decisions, but what I did was I learned from these bad decisions and I kept it moving. And every chance that I get to speak to somebody younger than me or even somebody older than me, I'll break it down to them. I give them my life story. It ain't the best story, but I made the best of my situation. And a lot of kids now don't have that person who's going to really break it down to them and tell them it's okay to mess up. When I was growing up, my mom always told me, oh, don't smoke weed, don't smoke cigarettes. She never told me why shouldn't I do it. It was just law, don't do it. Even with my kids, I tell my kids, don't smoke weed because it can impair your judgment. It can cause you to do certain stuff. Now, if you choose to do it, the consequences that come with it, you have to deal with it. But just remember, I gave you the pros and cons of everything. And that's what a lot of our kids now need to get, the best of everything. You can't just tell me why, don't do it. I need to know why. Break it down to me. And it's just a matter of explaining. It's hard sometimes as an adult, you got to explain yourself to a child, but it is. I'm one of those guys. It's real hard for me to be receptive to criticism. But as I grow up and I grew up, I take it in. You know how many times I've been to work and the inmate would tell me how to do my job better than I could do it? I can't get mad. I laugh about it, but I take it in. Constructive criticism. I may implement it later on down the line, but you can learn every day. And every day you do learn something. And you just can't be closed-minded.
I agree. And Cliff, in the book of Hebrew, I'm going to take a different approach to this. We are reminded in Hebrew 13 that we should continue to remember those who are in prison as if we were together with them in prison. The question I always ask myself is, how do I do that? Uh, so I want to ask Blue, if you don't mind, what are some of the things that you wish was in place? You mentioned the social worker, but I know that there are prison ministries, and usually we tend to come and present the gospel to you and get you to fall in love with Jesus and so forth. That's a wonderful thing, and I'm all for that. But outside of that, what are some other things that you wish was in place, either through the social worker or either through the prison ministry from the churches that were in place so that people who are behind prisons can get access to certain things when those things are not easily available to them?
Your question is what should be in place that's
What do you
what
think? So from your experience, what are some of the things that you wish was in place that could have made a difference for you?
uh, I guess more education, far as real life education. Like right now, they in prison, like they far as they education, like GED stuff like that. A lot of kids in there don't even know nothing about no credit score, don't know nothing about investing. Like a lot of things that I had to learn through life. I had to learn through experience with my interaction with other people, like how to start a business or can you start a business? What you got? What are the steps and movement? A lot of like they got it built up on pods up there, and there's not a lot of movement. Whereas though they can get their mind off of negative things. There's a lot of sitting around watching TV. There, like you can go shoot the basketball in CFCF, but in pick, you gotta a guard have to go. It got to be like multiple guards just to go down to the little yard that they have there, and multiple pods are in that same yard. There's no like there's weightlifting restrictions. There's a lot of restrictions, and it's just not like there's no movement. There's no movement, and like the food is horrible. it's it's just a horrible experience. It's like prison make you more frustrated than what you already coming in, being as though that your freedom being taken away from you until someone makes a decision on your life. Like so, with that mindset, you already going in frustrated, angry. Like now you got to sit around a bunch of strangers. Now you got to knock on the door and try to get a question answered from a CO, like Cliff said, may been working 3, 4, like just been working crazy hours, and they not trying to hear it. So everybody frustrated. There's too much frustration in the system. They need to figure out a way to calm the system down. Now, I guarantee you'll have less violence. You'll have less
Unfortunately,
animosity towards guards. They made it where as though if you're a block worker, the block worker is just about everything. They got more freedom than anybody else out in the cell on the pod. And now people looking at that block worker with animosity. You know, oh, how he get to do this and how he get to move this. It's not enough. It's not enough activities in jail for you to properly rehabilitate yourself into the real world. It's
I
just
don't
not
think
there.
it's ever going to be enough rehabilitation, well, movement, because you're looking at the reality is the jails are the most understaffed department right now, I would say, in the Philadelphia prison system. In my opinion, again, this is my opinion. So, yes, they do need more stuff. The one thing I learned about the mind, and this is just from me personal, with me experiencing death a lot lately these last few years, the more you sit idle, the more your mind wanders. If you're not doing something, yes, your mind wanders. That's why I say I've noticed a lot of guys that get arrested or go to jail. I don't like to really use the word inmates, but when a lot of guys that go to jail, they are some we as a people are some very creative human beings. If you would see some of the stuff these guys create or do while they're in there, it's amazing. My thing is, if outside the jail we find some other constructive way to channel these same energies and these same thinkings, that way we can probably help these people to avoid them coming into the system. But it starts outside the jail. If we don't have the resources outside the jails to assist us as a people to do better, they can't expect us now to get incarcerated and to come out better. That's just the reality of it. You can't, it has to start, and you looking at your foundation comes from home. As much as I might have been mad at my mom that she was so strict or stern with me, but that foundation is what got me to where I'm at now. A lot of people don't have that foundation at home, and a lot of these kids are parenting themselves and they're parenting their little brothers and their little sisters. Like with this homeschooling, you have kids right now that are 14 years old. They got homeschooling, but they got to make sure their little brother who's 7 and 8 do their homeschooling. It's taken away from their education because mom is out working 2 jobs to make sure they're good. Because dad might be that guy that's locked up on State Road, whether it's for the right or wrong reason, but it's just the reality of it. It's not set up outside of jail for us to really succeed. Now, as a young Black entrepreneur, I made a way not because someone gave me the blueprint. And one thing I think us as young Black women and men, we need to really start giving that info to everybody else. If Monday comes to me right now and says, "What's the blueprint? How did you start your company?" Why should I tell him, "Man, you got to figure it out on your own," because I don't want to see him make money. There's plenty of money out here to be made. And that's what I don't know why, but it's the stereotype where we really do act that way. And it's like the Chinese people. You have Chinese guys, they'll come from wherever they come from, they'll open up a Chinese store. They'll make their money, make their millions, and they pass it on to the next person. They make their millions and they pass it on to the next person. Why can't it be the same way with us and what we do? It's not that hard. Just like we train ourselves to do certain things, we got to start training our minds to start thinking different and doing different. Just like if I see something that's wrong, if I'm out here and I see Blue do something to somebody else and I don't agree with it, but I let him do it and I keep it moving, just as bad as Blue or whoever.
You know, Cliff, you've been saying a lot of the same thing. In corporate America, it's called managerial succession, and I tell people that all the time. There's so much in the black population, in Hispanic population. I think there's so many of us that have a blueprint that we can definitely teach. I'm from the school of it takes a village to raise a child. You mentioned that unfortunately some kids don't have a mother at home, a father at home. But we ought to continue to have task force. You have somebody like yourself that knows a whole lot, that's seen a whole lot, and you are taking some kids under your wing. It is a societal issue, and I keep on telling people it is a village issue. It's not a one person issue, because unfortunately you have families that people don't have, people that have that knowledge, and knowledge does not necessarily mean formal education. But we ought to understand as a society that we have a big problem and we need to solve that problem. And we have so many layers of the problem that we need to look at every single layers. We do have, the Chinese places that are right next to us, and you can have 5, 6, and 7 of them. It's not a problem. But then if you have 1 or 2 Black places right around the corner, then it becomes an issue. Our whole mental need to change in order for us to get somewhere. And I keep on telling people, I'm from the school of solution, and I'm from the school of solution from us. As in, I'm not going to blame anybody else. I'm going to blame us, because it starts with us. Yes, the system is rigged, is disgusting, is corrupted. Now, what do we need to do? And ask yourself, it's each of you doing your part. And your part doesn't have to be a big thing. Just mentor a child. Mentor one child. Society.
Patty, I want to ask something just to be clear. And I was thinking about it as we're talking, and I'm listening to a lot of the things that we're throwing out there. Just for our viewers or listeners who are on the show, are we saying that prison is not necessary
No.
or needed? Or are we saying it's needed, it's necessary, it's just corrupted? The way that it was implemented is heavy towards one group versus another, and that's where the corruption is, and
Prison
that's
is
where it needs to
definitely
change.
needed. It's definitely necessary. The issue that I'm seeing with the prisons is, yes, it is corrupted. Now, as far as me saying how do we fix it, like I said, it starts from the administration and it trickles down to your captains, lieutenants, sergeants, then your officers. It's a chain reaction. It's not something that's going to get fixed just by me complaining. But prisons, by no means, I don't want anybody to think that I'm saying we shouldn't have. We need prisons. You need that discipline. It has to be some form of repercussion for wrong actions. Now,
Like the punishment should fit the crime.
exactly.
Always.
But it should fit the crime,
Yes.
not just because you're white or you're Black. It should fit the crime because of the nature of the crime
Correct.
code, not because I can go out here right now and I steal a car And like you were saying with the young lady who was going through and she got to pick her jail where she wanted to go, that these minimum and these maximum sentences, I look at it as though those guidelines is where the corruption comes into play. Where that young lady had the opportunity to get a maximum sentence, but the judge was lenient and gave her the minimum. Whereas though if I got the same thing, I would get the maximum because I'm black. But on the same note, I can't challenge it because he governed within his government rights, minimum and maximum. It was still within the legal jurisdiction, but it just was unfair. And that's
hence,
the thing.
hence why they can get away with it. So the
Exactly.
punishment should be consistent regardless
Exactly.
of your complexion. But once he said within the minimum and the maximum, you can't say he's playing.
Exactly. And us as humans,
Right, they have a lot of leeway, and it's always based on the
There's
judge's
a lot of
right?
feeling and
yeah.
what they there is that, and that's where voting, just to bring it back
Exactly.
there, that's where voting come into play too, because we vote for our
Yep.
judges that are on that is on the bench. So that's where, when you see a next election, a seat for a judge seat is open, we need to look at what this lawyer is about, cases that they've won, things that they've said on social media, to see what type of judge they're going to be, because there, of course, we have the steps in place to always challenge and appeal cases, but as long as they're within their guidelines, they're within the authority to make those decisions as to what they're going to sentence someone.
Right.
And also the state attorney, because the state attorney is the one that decides whether they're going to charge someone and what they're going to charge them with. Look at Breonna Thomas. Breonna Taylor, I'm sorry. So what are they going to get charged? The black person who did this or the white person did it, all of those things matter when it comes to voting.
You're muted, Monday.
You're
Monday.
muted.
You're muted, Monday.
Muted.
There you go.
Yeah. Thank you so much, guys. I wanted to take a moment to say how proud I am. I'm listening to Clifford right now, and I can remember him as a little kid, and so it's amazing to see the changes in him, and the fact that he's making a difference in the lives of his brothers and sisters and the community. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about, guys. The Bible says we all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. So not one of us can sit here on the panel and say, well, we never did anything wrong. Maybe you did a few things wrong. You were never caught. Okay. But all of us, we are all on the same page. And I believe when it comes to justice without compassion, and I think that's what some of the conversation when I was listening to you guys with the prison system, we can rehabilitate nobody if we don't believe in compassion. So yes, there's justice, but again, even the way we talk about justice is different when it comes to the Bible. The Bible look at justice as what can I do to make that person's life better, not just what can I do to punish them for the crime. Our society, we are good at punishing people for the crime, even after they spend time in jail. They leave the jail cell, they are still being punished for something they already paid for. That has to change. We have to change that. That's that. To me, it makes no sense for someone who went to prison, paid they spent the time, they gave to society what they're supposed to give. Now they come out, it's hard for them to find jobs. It's hard for them to continue to live their lives. It's hard for them to provide to their family. And so what they find themselves doing is being sucked right back into the system again. That's not fair for no one. I wouldn't want it for my own children, and I'm sure none of you will want that for your own children. And I always say, whenever you think about someone, and the way that they are being judged, think of it as someone you know. Think of it as your brother, your sister, your mom, your dad. If they were in that situation, how would you want them to come out? If they spend time in jail, what would you want to happen to them after they leave the jail cell? How would you want the society to treat them? At the end of the day, that's what it's all about. We need to be a society where compassion lives in the heart of each and every one of us, and especially the those who are elected in powers, those who are making the decision about people's lives. Clifford, aka Superman, Blue, I want to thank you so much. Listen, this is awesome. You hardly hear people, especially, I mean, listen, you come here on a show, we're probably gonna have 300 viewers of people who are actually gonna watch this, and you are willing to say, listen, I've done this, but I spent the time in prison. But I'm here to tell those of you who are watching this is not a good place. And I want to tell you that I appreciate that. I really appreciate you being vulnerable enough and authentic enough to share with us your own experience and to remind us and to remind our young people to think about the decisions that they make. So thank you, Blue, for being here, and to the beautiful ladies who are with us today. We enjoy your company. It was a very, very good conversation. Cliff, we love you, brother. You're always welcome here on the Remedy.
Cool,
Maybe
cool.
you want to come back and talk about your business the next time around. Because you are making an impact on the community, and we want to hear more about it.
I'm gonna hold you to that one. I'm gonna come back and plug the business, and I need that.
Hey, listen, we can plug my business in too.
There you
That
go.
might be another
Mr.
topic
B.
for another day. Black business in the profit.
There you go. There you
Thank
go.
you for
So thank
having
you
me.
guys. Thank you so much again for being here. If you don't mind, before you leave, I want to invite those of you who are watching this show. If you like the show, if you enjoy the presentation today, give us a like on Facebook. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We want to keep this going. We want to continue to educate. Someone asked me this question the other day. This is supposed to be a Christian show, but you guys talk about everything. Well, the question is there anything that's not Christian? I mean, didn't Jesus say we have an obligation to those who are in prison? So if you think, well, this is a show about prison, I'm a Christian, this has nothing to do with me, you are wrong. So once again, we want to thank you so much for being part of the Remedy today. There's a lot of background noise going on here right now, so I'm going to turn it over to Pat. Would you pray for us before we go, Pat? And we'll be going after that.
Sure. Thank you. Father God, we thank you for bringing us together to talk about such an important topic. We ask you to continue to help us move our society forward, to continue to stay within our hearts and in our journey, and to bless everyone that are free and the ones that are incarcerated, Father God, to continue to help the CEOs and all the people within the administrative, so they could see what is going on and how they can help. We ask you to also help us have a wonderful weekend and even better week coming ahead. As usual, we thank you for everything and for the things that we don't know that are coming our way. We ask you to bless us and be with us. Amen.